if you're not clear or you're not getting that results with your clients currently where you can actually really serve, do that first rather than trying to, I think, build something like, oh, I got this big program and I wanted it, but it's not tested. It hasn't worked through. I think that's a mistake. I think you need to get something going and make sure that you're actually helping folks first and find out what is, like, people will really say, oh, that really helped me. That was transformation. Okay, then let's focus on that, because there may be other things you're doing that aren't really that beneficial.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is David Carr, a leadership coach, consultant, and founder of Steward Your Business, where he helps small business owners and leaders in the area of professional services build resilient teams and lead with clarity, courage, and connection. With over 25 years of experience in environmental consulting and large-scale project leadership, David has built multi-million-dollar initiatives while developing a reputation for cultivating strong, purpose-driven teams. His work blends practical business consulting with executive coaching, using proven frameworks to help leaders streamline operations, strengthen communication, and align with their people, systems, and strategies. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you so much, Rexhen. So glad to be here and be a part of the greater community that you are all creating.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure for us to have you on. So thank you for taking the time to come into our podcast. I actually wanted to learn a little bit more about your beginnings as a coach. So when you started your coaching business, first of all, what inspired you to become a coach and then do this as a business? So I do know that based on LinkedIn, when it comes to Steward Your Business, it's been around for 3 years, right?
Yeah, we're going on 4 years this month. We're super excited. After being in the environmental consulting space, Rexhen, for, like I said, 25 years, still in there at times, I realized that there's lots of problems and leaders stuck either with disengagement or misalignment. And so I didn't really start up originally to be a coach. I was going to stay in that career, but I pivoted 3 years ago, and I said, I can help more people than just doing this within a company. And so that's really where it came out of realization that to help people, particularly in my background with professional services, people that are engineers, biologists, archaeologists, paleontologists, very specialized in what they do, subject matter experts, but to have them help them become more effective people first leaders, that is something that is challenging, to be moving from maybe a manager to an actual leader. That's a whole different skill set. And I found that myself and others just didn't have that. And they're like, okay, where do I go to get that? Because a lot of companies, I found at least, didn't provide that. And so I'm like, I need that support. I need that community of others that want to learn, that want to rise. And so that's really where it came about. And so through my own personal development, I decided, okay, I've been working and doing this work for myself for quite a long time. How can I help others?
And so now it's been 3 years, and when working with others and going through the coaching journey with your clients, what about it would you say you find most rewarding?
Sure. It's really when the lights go on and when a real leader or somebody that's in a leadership position realizes they don't have to stay stuck. They can actually step forward with clarity and confidence. They don't actually have to parachute in to solve all the problems. They actually start to shift from being frustrated, overwhelmed, exhausted. They're like, hey, I got to do all these things, and start to realize I can actually build a team. I can build people to come alongside me that actually want to work with me. And to me, that has been the most rewarding journey. I said this on another podcast. I like the movie Ghostbusters. If you ever watched the movie Ghostbusters, there's a scene where they're trying to defeat the Marshmallow Man. He's huge. He's overpowering. And they're each shooting their streams power up trying to get them, and it's not working. And then they say, well, what if we cross the streams? That was kind of an aha moment to me, is like when I see, like, I help the leaders cross the streams between all their different departments, individuals, and boom, they're multiplying their success. It's exponential. And to me, that's so exciting. And when we see that and we say, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. And it's like, boom. And then we do it over and over again in different areas of the business.
One thing about these leaders, so we mentioned like the industries that they were in, and we talked about small business owners, leaders in professional services. If we were to specify it even further, how would you describe your ideal client profile? Is there a certain demographic too? Is there a psychographic, some common goals or other commonalities that they usually have?
Great question. There's kind of two areas that I focus in on. When I started Steward Your Business, I focused on the business owner, and I still do that work. I enjoy that work. And so basically, it's usually somebody that has an established business. They may have just started, but generally speaking, I've worked with companies that have been established for maybe 4 or 5 years. They're generally making decent revenue of maybe, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 million in annual revenue. Let's see, they're coming, the money's coming in, they have a proven process, but they're realizing they're getting stuck somewhere along the way. And it's people, there's a misalignment, there's maybe communication breakdowns. So, and then the business owner feels like they have to step in on everything. It could be even larger. I was talking with a gentleman who has a $44 million company in multiple divisions, and he has to come in and solve different issues, and he's not getting the information that he needs from his team. So there's that component. And then where I'm also excited, where I'm expanding with Steward Your Business, is working with individuals that are up and comers. Like, again, where I found myself, where I didn't have executive coaching. There wasn't at that lower tier. It's that next level down below the business owner. It could be a group manager, director. It could be a department head. Those folks that are maybe not, at the apex of the company, but they're certainly can be quite influential. And if they understand that and find themselves, and sometimes when they're in that position, they feel lonely, even just like as a business owner. Who do I talk to? Who do I collaborate with? I find this is an interesting time in I'm 51, so there's Gen X, there's different generations, millennials, the Gen Zs. How are they navigating in whatever level of their opportunity for leadership? And so I found there was quite a bit of a gap, what I call in the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, environmental consulting, where there's a lack of mentorship and guidance to those folks that could really benefit, especially from outside the company, just an outside perspective and be able to talk to somebody. So that's a combination of different things. And so I get to go do different professional groups I go talk to and connect with from, the Wildlife Society. I'm going to be speaking in November here at the Society for Military Engineers on ways that we can help build high value, high trust teams. And so I work a lot of different folks in that industry, in that space. And that's helped me grow my coaching business and help, again, reach more folks, helping lift them up and give them a different opportunity that, frankly, I didn't have. I could watch a video online, buy a book, but there's something more than that. And that's why I jumped in coaching, because it's like having somebody else come alongside you and create an environment and experience, much what Purple Circle is doing is for coaches as well. So, yeah.
So kind of like the coach you wish you had.
Yeah.
When you were, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so right now, when people work with you, and I didn't mention this earlier too, but there's two audiences that we have in this podcast. There's coaches, which typically are interested in listening to other coaches, but there's also the audiences of the coaches we've had on the show before. So we've borrowed some of their audience as well, and they're just looking for a good fit for a right coach. And we might have leaders as well that might fit your ideal client profile who are listening. And for them, how would you explain the engagement that clients have with you? Is there a certain program of a certain length? How is it like to work with you?
Great question. Generally, I don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. I do have elements and things that I've trained and been certified on, and I bring those tools in as it's appropriate. But as far as the businesses go, when I work with a business owner, we look and we kind of do an assessment of where they're at, kind of diagnostic. And we look at, areas like alignment. We look at communication. We look at how they're executing things, what's their capacity. I look at these holistically. And then we make a plan and we say, okay, here's the plan going forward. Most of the time, if we're in a challenging time, it didn't get there overnight and we're not going to get out overnight. So what I usually say is commit to at least a 3-month engagement. Ideally, it's going to be longer than that. Most clients have stayed with me for multiple years since I started the company, because we continue to evolve and we look at the problems and the changes and we adjust. So I do a 360 approach where I'm working with a business owner and their key team, and we look at things on a regular basis, week by week, month by month. I'm not a big fan of trying to lock you in and trying to get you into a long-term contract, because it's all about value. And if you're getting what you need, we continue working on month by month. It's all results based. So, hey, if you're getting the results that you desire, we continue moving forward. If not, or you need to pivot or pause, that's fine too. It's the same basic approach with the individuals that come into the Steward Yourself program. I have a place where we initially get them up and running for the first 3 months of just come basic understanding, mindset, tools, resources. And then beyond that, if they need additional support, whether it's through the group or one-on-one, that's available to them. And so, yeah, I have some different ways that they can come at it. And I'm excited to be able to do that and continue to grow that, and having others, especially individuals. I've had more folks kind of like, hey, I want to be able to engage you. What does that look like if they're not part of a business? And so that's been exciting this year.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, David.
Yeah.
And one question I'm curious about now, and I feel like other coaches who are listening are going to be curious too, is when it comes to marketing, which is something that coaches don't necessarily like to do. What marketing channel is working really well for you?
Great point. A couple different ones. You and I connected on LinkedIn. Certainly LinkedIn is one where I've been on there since 2007. I was an early adopter there. Professional services is kind of a natural to me. Is as far as quote unquote social media channels go, that is the most influential, effective one. I am very active and have been connected networking for a long time. I've been a different part of networking groups. And so one of them I'm in, it's called Success Champions Network. It's business to business focused, because that's where I'm at in the farm of coaching. I'm not doing quote unquote life coaching or any, I think like it's a different way. And so I like collaborating with other business owners that don't do what I do, whether it's, legal, MSP, if it's, HR, I work very well collaboratively with those. And so there's ways that we can find synergy. I host my own podcast, which I'm so glad to be here. So people find me through that podcast. I call it Business Roundtable Podcast, Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. We're actually running a couple. One that's just me, and one that we do similarly. We're talking about issues that our business owners are facing. Also do speaking engagements as well. So that has been ramping up, and there could be, like, I'm going to do the International Internal Auditors Association, their conference here in Orange County. I'm going to be doing the Society for Military Engineers Small Business Conference in November. So I think putting yourself out there, getting exposure, both in person and online. I also participate with nonprofits where I help volunteer my time in certain ways and connect with other people that way. So I think all of those is a good mix, but that helps build trust and relationship, and it's not just a scattered shot approach.
Cool. I like that you have multiple channels that are helping you kind of like build your audience, and each of these channels kind of plays a role into their journey as well. So that's beautiful to see, and especially the podcast too, because this is where you get to like be your authentic self as well. And many coaches that I've had on the show that usually have had their own podcasts, I've seen many clients that actually have listened to their podcasts, and when they came to like a discovery call or anything like that, they were actually ready. They had been listening to them for a while until they decided to actually show up. So
yeah, to your point, Rexhen, I think in inviting me on the podcast here, I appreciate that, because it's about creating value. It's about creating relationship in a space. And I think that's so important in today's age. So many people are just getting pitched, they're getting things thrown at them. And I'm like, it's all about building relationship first and giving me the inviting the permission to come into their world. And so I think that's what your point, very important, Rexhen. If you're a coach, you've got to create that space, inviting and offering something up. And then I like to say taste and see. And if it's something like, oh, I want to know some more, I think that's so important. So yeah, you're right on.
I like that, taste and see. I hadn't heard that before, and it makes a lot of sense. So right now, when thinking about your coaching business, studio business, looking in the future for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific goals you're working towards?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I started the company working with business owners and their teams has been great. What I realized is there's a capacity issue there, and I love doing it, but I really limit myself to about 5 businesses that I work with on a monthly basis because I really infuse a high touch component of consulting, coaching, and so what I have started to do in order to help grow and expand the business, because I want to reach more people, is creating that group coaching program for the individuals as well. And so I'm excited to be able to offer that up so that individuals can come in and building community. I've been working with some folks help me on the back end with creating a space for those folks to come in at different levels, depending on what they want, what they need in engagement. So the next year and going forward is I'm going to be focusing on augmenting my offerings, continuing to help those business owners, but also helping the individuals as well. So yeah, that's the evolution we're in the process right now and building that out as we go into 2026.
When you say augmenting your offerings, what do you mean exactly? So basically, you said group coaching was a new one that just came in now?
Yeah. So I've been working. I do work with groups within the companies when I work with them, and I have individuals. But now I'm creating a separate program called Steward Yourself, where we actually provide, like I said, it launched earlier this year, but we've been growing and adjusting and adapting as different folks come in, how best to meet them where they're at. And so using technology and tools and all of those fun things, how to create that experience for them. And so that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I want to get to the challenge with that as well. But before I get there, and this question goes to that research is, what investments have you done in your coaching business, either investments in yourself or in your business, that you feel like you either learned a lot or got a good return from? So basically a good investment. And what is also the opposite of that? What was an investment that was not good that you would have preferred to have avoided, if there's any of those?
Yeah, I'll start with the good ones. I mean, it really started years ago. I started investing in myself. And so just personal development. And if it's just time, but it was either consuming books, videos, certifications. I mean, there's a number of certifications and things that I bring in to the coaching program because I believe them. I've used them. I've applied them to my own life. So if I keep using them, I know that they're worthwhile. Certain groups, I connect with a number of amazing people. So being in proximity and connection with others has been fantastic. I've been, I've been certified with a number of folks from in different companies. I think the trick that something you have to be aware of if you're a coach, though, is be careful. And I fell into this trap of, if you get certified, you need to make it your own, apply it. And I've been working on that through my group coaching. What happens is if you're not careful, you may be lost in the sea of everybody else that's quote unquote certified with so-and-so, whatever it is. And so that can be a little bit tricky. I think that oftentimes I get pitched, I would say I'm careful. And this is where maybe you have to know people and that I've built relationships, but I know people that are helping me in different things that I don't do. So I mentioned I'm in Success Champions Network. There's people that I don't do legal. I don't do accounting. Understanding where your strengths are, invest in those things, but make sure that they're trustworthy, reliable folks. I think you mentioned earlier, the marketing side is very, what do I want to say? There's a lot of moving parts right now because of technology and changes. And so I think if you're not careful, you could be investing money. So I've been very cautious in listening and watching out. Probably pitched every day. And for coaches out there, if you haven't got this, you will. Hey, could I get you some more leads? Or could you handle some more clients? It's a very common pitch out there. Without building the relationship, out knowing who I am, what I'm about, where am I trying to go, that's not really useful.
Yeah.
So understanding that, I've had people pitch me on my YouTube channel, like, oh, how do we want to improve you? But they don't understand what I'm trying to do with that and how I'm trying to reach people. Just trying to get more followers or something is, I think, a trap.
Yeah.
We can get kind of blinded by quote unquote the numbers or what the numbers, which we need to track things, but sometimes there's what I call vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics, yeah.
Yeah, right? You're like, oh, I got this. Well, but what did that convert to? What did that actually change? It just doesn't really mean that much. So to me, cautious about, you asked the question too, investing more. It's more about my time, not less about the money, about where am I trying to reach people, connect with people. So to me, that's been the biggest, I think, learning and then realizing, okay, where do I need help along the line of maybe I shouldn't be doing all these little other elements, because at least for me, I like production. I like working and I like helping people. And so that's where you have to understand, some people naturally go one way or the other. I found either some people are really like that, or some people really like the sales side. They really like that first end engagement. And I found either one or the other has been my experience. And so realizing that's not like you said, most coaches aren't in the marketing and the sales side, just not naturally where they go. So then it's like, make sure you just invest in good people or processes so that you're not being frustrated with like, well, how come I'm not getting the right people or whatever? It's like, yeah, because they don't understand what you need. And you can't, one thing that was shared with me was like, you can't delegate sales, for example, first. You can do it eventually later, but if you haven't gone through it and understand the process, nobody else is going to do it better than you. And so you could be investing a lot of money in paid ads and all sorts of things, and it's not converting because their person's trying to do it for you and they're not you, and they're never going to do it as good as you are. Do it.
Yeah. And like they haven't had the 3 years, for example, that you've worked with your clients to better understand them. You're just like getting someone outside. So yeah, this is actually from the coaches who I've had on the podcast, this is mainly the feedback I've gotten from investments in agencies in marketing is, first of all, for the ones who reach out and want to find you leads from the get-go, that doesn't make a lot of sense because they don't know you, they don't know your clients. It's kind of like weird to promise that from the get-go.
Yes.
Let's say the approach is a little bit slower and it's like you're building value, but the problem is also, let's say you got into this relationship with an agency. What happens is a lot of times you don't even know how to do the process yourself. So you're delegating. Let's say a lot of times I have coaches that have not dialed into their niche too much, or like they have a niche, but it's kind of broad, and they might be a little bit foggy about what the ideal client profile is themselves. So having an agency to understand that is very difficult when you also don't know yourself. And same thing with sales. Don't have a process that is actually consistently working for you. It's hard to delegate that to someone else, especially because they're not you, they don't understand them, like the audience that you're serving. And it's also like when they get on the call, they trust you because you're selling you. And if you're getting someone else to sell you, it gets a little bit tricky there.
It
Especially
does.
with coaches, I feel
Absolutely does. And I think that there are folks, unfortunately, that I had a number of folks on my podcast, the other one about sales, because and they're trying to break this because there's just a lot of bad habits out there, and they're tactics that do work sometimes, but they're not consistent. And unfortunately, you've got to learn that. And I work. It's interesting you say that, Rexhen, because just as a coach, I work with business owners too. When I work with the business owners, oftentimes they're not clear on completely their mission, their vision, their values. Where do they want to go truly? And I ask them these questions. I'm like, well, how is your team actually going to be able to succeed really well if you, the business owner, don't understand this? If you are not clearly, even if you understand it, I like to say this, I'm married. I've been married for 20 years, Rexhen. I don't tell my wife I love her once and then we're done. It's like, no, it's repeated, reminding every day, who are we about? Where are we going? And sometimes we forget that. And I think, that's so important. And to spend the time to really dig into that and find like, who are the people that you're called to serve, and, go after that area. I can do a lot. I can help a lot of different people, but I know where I have the most influence and impact is where I've spent the majority in my whole career of environmental consulting, recognizing that I know that the challenges and the things that they go through, and I've been there. And so that's my passion. If you're not clear as a coach and you just want to get in there, you're really going to have a difficult time to be successful in getting a coaching business running. Like you said, clear, they haven't gone down, they haven't niched it down. They're kind of, well, I could do this, I could do that. And it's a classic, not just coaching anybody in business, where they say, well, I could serve anybody. Well, that's true to a degree, but your message is not going to resonate with everybody.
Exactly. If your message is for everybody, it's not going to appeal to anyone. So
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. So in your case right now, do you feel like in your marketing efforts, do you feel like there is any challenge there, or do you see it that is actually that is not the bottleneck, it's mostly your capacity?
Well, I mean, capacity is there. I think one of the things I'm seeing is that, because of our digital world that we live in, most people, it's breaking through the noise and the bad stuff that's out there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that people are getting exposed to, these other tactics. And so how do you break through that, particularly for individuals? And they're like, how do I know this? So I'm doing some of these things like this is the podcast, but what I'm seeing is there's a resistance or guardedness, rightfully so, by people out there because they don't want to be sold. Nobody wants to be sold. They want to buy. And so how do we better provide an experience and environment for them to buy and that whole client journey? So part of that's what I'm working on as I develop that program and folks to come into that experience, and I'm tweaking it and I'm adjusting it and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, how does that fit for them. And again, learning how we're leveraging technology, platforms, AI, you name it, right? How do we use it in a healthy way? And I think that's a challenge right now of leveraging those things and creating a space for folks that's meaningful, authentic, just because I think you're combating a lot of other, I say, noise or junk out there in the marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's cutting through the noise is hard nowadays. It's like a lot of noise online. And when thinking about other coaches, and this is the final question, is
sure
for coaches who are trying to scale their impact, so basically touching more lives, making a change, making a bigger change. In your case, you're also trying to scale your impact through group coaching and through other methods of growing your audience. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to these coaches who are trying to scale their impact?
Well, I think serve first. I mean, make sure that you're making an impact. I mean, that's why I started with the business owners. And I said, okay, let me just start with a few and make sure that we're solving real problems. We're actually building trust. We're actually going through. Don't focus on, polishing so much or trying to get into minutia of like that side of things, but really work on what has worked on your proven transformation. And then from there, systemize. So like I said, I'm doing the group program because I know it's worked with the companies. I know that can work. I've got these tools that now I've been certified over the many years. And I'm like, okay, what's the best way to insert those? But I know they work. So I think to me, it's staying in community as well. I know Purple Circle offers this among others where you're not siloed. And that you're being open and sharing. And that's why I wanted to come on the podcast with you today, give back, share my own journey, open up things that are working, not working. And so that way in that way, you will be able to then scale. But if you're not clear or you're not getting that results with your clients currently, where you can actually really serve, do that first rather than trying to, I think, build things. I'm like, oh, I got this big program and I wanted it, but it's not tested. It hasn't worked through. I think that's a mistake. I think you need to get something going and make sure that you're actually helping folks first and find out what is like people will really say, oh, that really helped me. That was transformation. Okay, then let's focus on that because there may be other things you're doing that aren't really that beneficial.
Yeah, I was talking about this with another coach yesterday. He was trying to cut the fat out of his program because he was offering too much, but not all of it was required for his clients to get results. And he noticed that because he was doing that, he wasn't getting efficient and it was getting harder to scale because he was offering too much, but not necessarily like all of it was required or needed. It makes a lot of sense to me, like figuring out what they actually need, not what you think they need. So you have to kind of like ask them and they will tell you.
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate it. We make it too much. They don't really need a lot more. I think it's just listening and then saying refining. And I like that. Cut the fat. Definitely. We overcomplicate. At least I do. I overcomplicate too many things. Let's make it simpler, clear for them so that they can get wins, more quickly. We all know this. If we can get wins quicker, we'll keep the momentum going. Celebrate that, and that's very important in order to scale. How do you get people on a regular, consistent basis to see the progress they're making, the transformation? Because if they're not, if anybody, we all know this. Whether you go to exercise or whatever, if you're not seeing that at some point and relatively, some initial wins and then see over the time. How do you reflect back? How are we making progress? That's very important, and how to be able to scale. You do need to do active reflection and look back on what's working and what's not working. Quite honestly, what's working now could change, and it may not be it may not be as effective, and there may be some new things you can adjust. And so you need to be able to be flexible and look at that. And that's something I do regularly. And I actually ask others to hold up a mirror back to me as well. I put myself in kind of the crucible and say, okay, maybe we need to adjust that. I was working with another coach yesterday, and he was like working in this thing, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, here, add me in, let me look at that, and I'll give you feedback. And so that's really important to get feedback, not just from your clients, but I would say outside perspective. And for example, what Purple Circle offers as well. You're getting a different view of the landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much, David, for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up David Carr. They'll be able to find your profile. And I believe that there is also the website stewardyourbusiness.com, right?
Yep. And you can find me. If you look that up, you'll find me on all the social media platforms. YouTube is where I have my podcast as well, among other ones. If you look up David W. Carr, sometimes confused here in the US. There's another famous David Carr, a football player. So I get mixed up with him sometimes. But, we're connected on LinkedIn, and I would love to hear from others, get feedback. And sometimes, people say, well, you only want to hear the good things. I think as a coach, I want to hear feedback or good questions. You've asked some great questions of me, and I'm totally open to that. Being coachable has been life transformational for me. And I appreciate you inviting me and having me on the podcast here to share a little bit with you and the audience.
Thank you, David. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.